Hi, my name is Michele Ferrario. I'm the co-founder and CEO of StashAway. Thank you to all the members of the Singapore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as today we have the opportunity to give you an inside look of on StashAway and tell you what StashAway is and how it can help you as members as well as the employees of all the members organizations. So StashAway is a digital wealth management platform. We help people invest their money with a long-term outlook. We don't promise doubling your money in a week or a month. What we promise is that if you use a systematic investment scheme and you use StashAway as the platform to do so, when you will retire, when you are going to reach your main goals in life, you're going to be able to afford those goals. You're going to be able to retire on your own terms with the type of lifestyle you've been dreaming of. It's a platform that is available both on a mobile phone as well as on a desktop application. What you can see here is a screenshot of our mobile application. It takes around 15 minutes, 1-5, to open an account and start investing. And because there is no minimum or no maximum, it's very flexible. You can decide how much to invest, when to invest, how frequently to invest. Now, today I'll go through some of the main features that you may want to hear about as you look into StashAway. So first of all, we are licensed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. We have a capital market services license for retail fund management. You can go actually to the MAS website, and this is a screenshot of what the MAS website will say about us. As part of the MAS regulation, we need to keep all of the money from our customers in a custodian structure, which in practice means that the money is not commingled with our own funds. It's completely separated. So anything that happens to StashAway doesn't affect the money that is being invested by our customers. In particular, we work with Saxo as our broker and with Citi and HSBC as the two custodians that keep cash and securities. StashAway was founded by 3 people. One of them is me. I have a bit more than 15 years of experience, spent half of my career in and around financial services, working first at McKinsey, a global consulting company advising banks, and then at a certain point in my career switching and moving into building consumer internet companies. My latest role, I was the group CEO of a company called Zalora, an e-commerce company based here in Singapore. My 2 co-founders, Freddie and Nino, bring to the table very deep expertise in 2 different areas. So Freddie is our chief investment officer. He spent close to 20 years investing billions and billions of dollars of money on behalf of institutional investors. His latest role, he was a managing director at Nomura, where he was the global head of derivative strategy at the Japanese bank. And before that, he was a portfolio manager. He's been he's a very respected figure in the industry, and we build technology to make sure that we bring the sophistication of institutional investors down to anybody with a very easy to use platform. And Nino, who's the CTO, is in charge of technology. He's a computer scientist by training, spent all of his life building tech companies. He's originally from Germany, but he's been building companies in Russia and the US and now in Singapore. We are backed by a number of investors. Our 2 lead investors are 8 Roads, which is a venture capital arm of Fidelity, one of the largest asset managers in the world, and Asia Capital and Advisors, which is a local Singapore-based private equity firm that invests in financial services. 2 very senior leaders from those 2 organizations actually sit on our board of directors. Raj Dugar, on behalf of 8 Roads, he's the managing partner of 8 Roads and sits on StashAway's board of directors, as well as Francis Rosario, who's the founder and CEO of Asia Capital and Advisors, sits on our board. And Francis, for instance, spent 28 years at Citibank, where he was the CEO in a number of different countries, and then he was the CEO of Fullerton Financial Holding as part of the Temasek Group. So he has more than 35, 40 years of experience in building and managing financial institutions. We have also built a world-class advisory committee. There is 5 people that are members of this committee. You can see the names here. I'm not going to go through each of them, but with a couple of examples, Wee Hoon, she's the former CEO of Morgan Stanley Private Banking in Singapore, and Pranay used to be the head of multi-asset strategies at Fullerton, part of the Temasek Group again. So what we have been doing since we started in 3 years ago is trying to tackle 3 issues. How to make investing intelligent, how to make it easy and convenient, and how to make it cost efficient. So let me start from the third one. So unfortunately, when you go to and talk to traditional financial advisors and banks, oftentimes you're going to be proposed products with certain fees and other fees you actually never see or that's difficult to find. Let's call them hidden fees. So one of our key principles is being transparent and make sure there is no hidden fees. So there is no hidden fees. And why is that important? Look, it's very important because fees in investing actually have a humongous effect on the total amount of money you actually build up over time. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have two options. You can invest $2,000 a month in investment A or $2,000 a month in investment B for 30 years. Both investments give the same rate of return, 6% before fees. So gross return 6%, same sophistication, same risk, same returns. The only difference is that investment A charges StashAway's type of fees. We charge 0.8% per annum for portfolios below $25,000, and then decrease this percentage down to 0.2% for portfolios above $1 million. While investment B charges the typical banking unit trust type of fees with a 2.5% entry fee, and we are assuming a 2 years holding period, and 1.5% annual management fee. Those are actually below the average that you see in Singapore. And what is the effect of this is that after 30 years, the investment B, the one with higher fees, will have accumulated $1.2 million. Investment A will have $1.8 million. That's a $600,000 difference. This is the difference between a retirement plan that makes you go to Paris or Tokyo once a year and one that makes you watch a lot of TV. It makes actual real difference in your life. And this is why understanding fees is so important. So that's kind of one of the key cornerstone of our offering. So making sure you have transparent fees, one fee only, and that fee you want it to be low. Now the second topic I've talked about is the sophistication of investing, so bringing intelligent investment. Because the reality is that today it's very difficult to access the type of sophistication that institutional investors look for. So there are two steps in investing. First is asset allocation, and second is security selection. So first you need to decide what percentage of your assets you want to invest in a particular asset class, for instance in North American equities or in Singaporean equities or in Asian bonds. And secondly, once you have decided that you want to invest 10% in North American equities, you need to decide of which this 10%, how much to invest in Apple shares, how much in Amazon shares, how much in General Motors shares, okay? Now, 80% of returns come from asset allocation. And this is where you want to actually spend your time and effort. And this is actually what I'm going to talk about in a second, and that's where StashAway adds value. Security selection, it's very difficult, it's close to impossible to do it right, and only yields less than 20% of total difference in returns. Now, I said it's difficult. Why do I say that? Look, I'll give you one number. In the last 15 years, again, I'm talking about 15 years, not 6 months, 15 years, professional investors whose job is to beat the market, so to beat, let's call it the S&P 500 for US managers, 92% of them have underperformed the S&P 500. So the job of professional investors is to beat the relevant index. For US large cap funds, whose index is at the S&P 500, only 1 in 20, more or less, have beaten that index. How likely are you as a non-professional investor to actually beat the index yourself? Very difficult. How likely is the manager that you pick to actually beat the relevant index? 1 in 20. You need to be very lucky. And that's why it doesn't make sense to spend too much time and effort on security selection. It's very difficult, it's not going to yield return, anyway the impact is very low, and you're better off by focusing on asset allocation. So how do we do that? We use ETFs to get exposure to a variety of asset classes. I'm not going to go through the whole list. This is our current list of 19 asset classes that we manage, and for each asset class we buy one ETF. An ETF will give you very broad and diversified exposure on the particular asset class. So for instance, if you want to invest in US large cap equities, we're going to buy an S&P 500 ETF, which means that you are de facto investing in 500 shares. So it's very diversified. You're not trying to do security selection. You're simply exposing an asset allocation decision. And as you can see here, we have a variety of asset class in equities. We have a variety of asset class on the bond side and real estate as well as gold. So I'll give you two examples of two different portfolios. So this is a portfolio with a StashAway risk index of 8%. This is a kind of a very conservative portfolio. And as you can see here, you're going to have a significant amount of bonds. You have some consumer discretionary equities, some European equities, some Japanese equities. Total for this is around 25%. Then you have US government bonds, 3 to 10 years, 10 to 20 years, over 20 years. That's around 45%. 15% convertible bond, 15% inflation-linked bonds. And therefore, you have a very diversified portfolio, but with a little bit of a conservative view. That's why you have so much fixed income, so much bonds. On the other side, for instance, if you take our highest risk portfolio, we call it StashAway risk index of 36%, you're going to see you have significantly more equity exposure, but still a very broad diversification. So here you have around 6% US equities, 15% small cap equities, 15% consumer discretionary, and 15% technology, 15% Asia-Japan equities. So you have around 65% pure equities, 15% convertible bonds, 12% real estate, 4% gold. So this is obviously very different from the portfolio we've seen before. And the idea is that depending on your personal risk preference as well as your timeline, so if you have more time, you may want to take a bit more risk. If you have less time, you want to be taking less risk, you can decide which portfolio you want. In my case, for instance, I actually have 6 portfolios because I have different goals. So my retirement goal, which is very, very far away from me still, will have a higher risk than my safety net, where I actually have a very, very low risk portfolio. And my kids are still young, so for their university funds, I still have very kind of a little bit of risk because it's a long-term portfolio as well. If you now want to learn more about what it means to invest in a disciplined way through a systematic approach and get access to a diversified portfolio across different asset classes, how can you do that? How can you start and maybe learn a bit more about StashAway? Well, the easiest thing you can do is go on a Play Store or on the Apple Store and download our app. It's called StashAway. Or if you don't like to use the app, you prefer to use a desktop application, you can actually go to www.StashAway.sg, and you're actually going to be able to build, to kind of log in and create an account and build your portfolios there. If you also want to learn more about investing and personal finance more broadly, we have something called StashAway Academy. We hold free seminars approximately once a week on a variety of different personal finance topics, from very beginners to intermediate to advanced. So for instance, if when I talked about equities and bonds, you thought, oh, what is equities, what is bonds, then maybe you want to come to one of our beginners courses where we actually explain what is equities, what is bonds, why you want to have some equities in your portfolio, and what does that mean, and what are bonds. While if all of that is kind of easy for you because you've studied before or you're an expert investor, you may want to come to one of our intermediate or advanced courses where we touch on a variety of different topics. For instance, our advanced courses, we have What is Your Financial Plan B, where we talk about legacy planning, and we talk about term insurance, and we talk about how can you protect your dependents if you have any. Or our deep dive on our investment framework, where we go deeper onto the logic of asset allocation across different asset classes. If you have a company and you would like to offer a curriculum like this to your employees, we do this for free to the company. We call it Financial Wellness Program for Employees. You can actually find more information at workplace.StashAway.sg, and we're very happy to build a unique curriculum for your company. Now, if you want to test it out, as I mentioned, fees are a very important part of our value proposition and are very low. We decided to extend you an even better discount. So if you go to this web address, tiny.cc/SASCCI, tiny.cc/SASCCI, and you click there, you're actually going to be able to log in and create an account in StashAway and be able to actually invest your first $20,000 free of charge for 6 months. So no question asked, no fees charged for 6 months. Because there's no lockup, you can close the account anytime you want. You can withdraw the money anytime you want. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any further questions, feel free to go to our website, send an email to our support, or WhatsApp us at this number, or call us at this number. Thank you so much.